Hello, Franklin County. This is Diana Zinel with the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce. We are visited today by Ron Bryant, who is the president of Baystate Franklin Medical Center and Baystate Noble Hospital, president of two hospitals. That's a big job any day, but these days, that's quite a big job, Ron. I also want to mention that Ron is a very valued member of our board of directors at the Chamber of Commerce. So we're really grateful, Ron, for you and your commitment to the Chamber. So, you know, we wanted to have you on here today to talk about the hospital, but mainly to thank Baystate Franklin for being such a trusted healthcare provider, you know, particularly during this time. This is the time where we're really relying on our healthcare professionals. And, you know, so we really wanted to thank you and thank your staff. And I'm sure you want to, you know, acknowledge them as well. All of the nurses, the doctors, but there's a lot of people at the hospital that are really stepping up to respond to this crisis.
All right, yeah. Well, first of all, Diana, thank you for having me today. This is a great opportunity for me to talk to, you know, not only the community, but to recognize my colleagues. As you've mentioned, you're absolutely right. The providers, the nurses, the physicians, you know, all the way down the line to our patient care techs, to our medical assistants, to our housekeepers, to our receptionists, to the unit secretaries. I mean, I could go on, and I'm sure I'll miss one of those, but they have done a tremendous amount of work to care for these patients and to really take care of our community. You know, I'm one of the lucky ones. I get to watch it happen every day, and the work they've done has been great. And you just can't be more proud at a time like this than to watch your organization really support the community and care for the community. It's just, it warms your heart. It's really a heartfelt thank you to all at the hospital and really Baystate Health System as a whole. I mean, it's just, it's what healthcare providers do. It's why we all get into this business in the first place, is to take care of patients. And to watch people come together in this time of need, you can't say more about it. It's tremendous.
Well, and you're right. And being part of that whole Baystate family, which is such a strong unit of health for healthcare, providing healthcare in Western Mass, is really terrific. That's just a huge benefit to the people of Franklin County. You mentioned thanking people, and what I found heartwarming is how the community wants to thank you and your staff. So with the meal train, and there's signs around Franklin County thanking essential workers and nurses and doctors and all of the other folks you mentioned, people in respiratory. So that's been really nice for me to see, and I'm sure that's just been really appreciated by you folks at the hospital.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, you know, to see the recognition that our providers are getting in the organization, all the employees that work at the hospital are getting from the community. We have received more food than, you know, you can shake a stick at. I mean, it's amazing. You know, folks like Hager's Market and Terrazas and Magpies and Village Pizza and Goodies, and there's a whole host of organizations that have given us some type of donation. And then also on the organizations that we work for, like the Franklin County Technical School, the Greenfield Community College, Eagle Brook and Deerfield Academy, that give us the PPE supplies, the personal protective equipment, that right away, I don't think we were in this for more than a week to two. And we were getting phone calls from the community of how can we help? You know, and in those times, we were just starting to say, okay, we got to prepare for surge planning and talk to the right people in the community. And you got to make the list, okay, who are those people? And they're calling you. And in the midst of all of that, these community organizations are reaching out to see how they can help us. And we, you know, and we're like, okay, how can they help us? What's the process? You know, we can't just take this stuff right into the hospital, you know? And so it's okay, drop it off at the front door, call this person, this is how you can get it to us. This is how we can make sure it's safe. And so you develop these processes, you go along, but right away, the community was one of the first ones that reached out and said, you know what, how can we help you?
That's so heartwarming too, because you mentioned those businesses who have their own worries and concerns right now. So it's really just extraordinary that during a time when their own businesses are struggling, their first instinct is to reach out and help others. And I think that says a lot about, the business community up here and just the community as a whole in Franklin County. You mentioned PPE, and I wanted to mention something that it was really fascinating to see. I had gotten an email from Michael Knappich, who's with Baystate, as he does your community outreach and all of that. And I stay in touch with Michael somewhat regularly about things, but he reached out on the weekend and he said, Diana, do you have any businesses that you think might have PPE that might be willing to give us some PPE? So I sat down and I sent out emails targeted to some of our larger manufacturers right away. And on a Sunday, they responded and said, we'll start, going through our storage, going through our supplies and seeing what we can give. And that was just a beautiful thing to happen. And I want to list them. I hope I don't forget anybody, but SWM, Valley Steel Stamp, Pelican Products, Beat Fog Nozzle, they all came forward when you needed it with really good quality PPE. And it went to the Baystate family, and I couldn't have been happier to be part of that. I'm so proud of them as chamber members for being willing and able to do that for all of you.
Yeah, I remember that Sunday that I believe our first PPE donation from the community was on a Sunday. And we were scrambling on the weekends, like, okay, where do they drop it off and how do they drop it off? And
yes,
I remember it. It seems so long ago now.
It was a long time.
Yeah, I know. It was only like 5-6 weeks, but it seems forever.
It does. But that was really, I was really proud of that. And I wanted to make sure we mentioned those manufacturers specifically because that was
There's
really
so many of them.
Yeah. So now Baystate Franklin is such a beautiful hospital. I've toured it, and there's a lot of really great units there. And so you want to talk about maybe how things are working in the other units. You have an absolutely beautiful childbirth center. And maybe people have questions about how things are working there now under the circumstances. You have an oncology unit, you have surgical daycare. I'm not sure if that's functioning right now, but I'm just curious how the rest of the hospital is working.
So from an operational standpoint, like the childbirth center, as you mentioned, has really been business as usual. As a matter of fact, I think this month, the month of March, we had over I think it was 44 births, which is right. So, it's business as usual in the birthing center, which we've been very fortunate. And then obviously the oncology where folks need to get their chemotherapy and their infusion treatments is still operating as usual. The volumes are somewhat diminished in the physicians rounding. We have regular physician schedules, clinic schedules at the hospital. Those had to be adjusted, obviously, because of the physician schedules and what's going on. So there's been some adjustments in that area, but that care is still happening. From a state mandate, the elective surgeries were discontinued. So we haven't been doing any elective surgeries for some time now. I think probably 4, 5, 6 weeks somewhere in, I think from the beginning, so probably 5 to 6 weeks, we've stopped elective surgeries. So now the challenge is getting back to and determining what is the new norm. What does the operations of the hospital look like and how do we transition back to what we'll call the new normal? Because we don't want folks delaying their care, which is not the right thing either. As we start to see the pandemic in Western Massachusetts plateau and really start to decrease, over the last couple of weeks. We've been seeing our numbers as a system come down from the inpatient side. So how do we now open back up to the patients in the community that need care? You know, to start using our emergency department, to start having the elective surgeries that maybe they've delayed too long now. So, you know, for instance, if somebody needs an orthopedic, a hip replacement, and now it's become very painful for them and it's bone on bone or something like that, you know, how do we start that type of business back up again? So those are the discussions we're having. There'll be more to come on that. But it's really transitioning now back to what does that new norm look like. But for the most part, all the other services, our outpatient services like radiology and lab and those things really were, I don't want to say discontinued, but their volumes greatly diminished because of the pandemic.
Right. And appropriately so at the time. But it's
Correct.
really nice. It's nice that we're finally at the point where we're starting to talk about the next step and what that looks like. I think that that's comforting for all of us who are hoping, you know, that we can start to come out of this and start to resume parts of our normal life that are appropriate and move forward. So again, I'm just so glad you came on. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Ron, right now before we wrap up?
I just can't thank the community enough. I think, you know, with the opioid task force, with obviously y'all work at the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce, with the work of the Greenfield Community College, with Franklin Regional Council of Government and their work and how they've reached out to us, the support has been tremendous. I think as we open back up, as you know, we've expanded our drive-through testing. So we're seeing on average right now about 30 patients a day come through our drive-through testing in the front of the hospital. That we want that to even be expanded more, so we can get more testing done. So there'll be more to come on that in the future. And then I think as we get back to what the new normal is, it's up to us to communicate that as much as possible to the community that, okay, this is what we're doing now for business and how we move forward in that process. So I just think, you know, I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done in this time. And I know it must be challenging for you because we used to, you know, we haven't had our usual monthly chamber breakfasts, and so we can all get together and talk about how we're promoting business within the community. And it, you know, as you mentioned, it's just refreshing to have the conversations of transitioning back to what the new normal will look like, and so it's just a breath of fresh air just to have the different conversation.
I totally agree. So, you know, this has been hard on the chamber. First of all, we know our members are hurting, first and foremost. So that's the most difficult thing. And, you know, as an organization, I mean, we thrive on that, being able to get together and network and everything. But we also thrive on collaboration. And you just touched on that. So you mentioned some of the agencies up here in Franklin County that collaborate at a level that I've never seen before. And so we're so fortunate to have that. With the college and FERCOG and Community Action and Franklin County Community Development Corporation. And you and I could sit here and probably name a dozen more.
All day long.
All day long. But that's what's going to get us through, is that all of those collaborations and those really strong relationships we have, and that mutual admiration that we have up here, that will allow us to move forward in the positive way that you're talking about. I think we're going to come out of this. It's going to be okay. We're going to be okay once we can move about, and I think people are really looking forward to getting back to supporting all of those businesses that we cherish so much up here. And Baystate Franklin is certainly one of the organizations that we cherish up here. So I really want to thank you so much for caring for this community.
Thank you.
Every day, but certainly when they needed it the most. And we look forward to things getting back to normal and our continued good relationship with you guys. And we wish you and your staff all the best. and give them a heartfelt thank you from all of us.
Well, I certainly will. And thank you, Diana, again for this. It was lovely. And I look forward to finally seeing you again in person sometime.
As do I. We really miss that person-to-person contact, right? That's what we're all about. So we'll get there. We'll get there, Ron. But
All
again,
right.
thank you, and be well, and all the best.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.